Hi everyone, so this is Diva again, and today I'm going to make a short video. I hope it is going to be a shorter video, just sharing my tips and tricks of how I was able to pass my Solution Architect Professional exam, or I would say AWS Solution Architect Professional exam. So it has been one of the toughest for me. And I would say one of the main reason in my case is mostly of my work experience in my educational background is in health sciences, right? So I used to be in med school, and then coming to Canada, I had to do my bachelor in psychology, and then I went to a business school, did my MBA, then started a fintech startup, and then kind of diverted my attention toward I would say cloud computing and coding. So that's what I'm working towards right now. So giving or having a background that's completely different to this one, it was really a tough one for me. I would say there were three things that really helped me to achieve this one. One was the first thing was about, I would say, the mindset, right? So mindset is something that always, if you develop it on regular basis, it can help you to achieve any big thing that you wanted to set your mind to achieve it. So for me, how I used to build my mindset was to go for a morning run, and then also listen to a book called The Confident Mind, right? It's by Dr. Nate Sisner. I kind of forgot his last name, but The Confident Mind was like one of the, I would say, prominent psychologists. How you train your mind and how you kind of build up your confidence that you wanted to achieve something greater in life. It's actually possible more than your physical potential. I'm not sure if I can say physical potential, but your potential that you think, okay, you can do something or you cannot do. It's not really that. It's actually how you wanted to believe that you wanted to make something happen, right? So that was really the first thing for me, building my mindset by going for a morning run, listening to that book, and then doing maybe I would say a 5-minute meditation, just really facing the sun, closing my eyes and saying, okay, if this is something that's really important for me, then I'm going to do it no matter how hard it's going to get, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, most important, I would say the second most important thing is you wanted to actually do a goal setting, right? And then goal setting in a sense, okay, my exam is going to be 2 months from now, and then I'm going to divide my 60 days. Okay, so those are the days I'm going to be working. Those are the days I'm going to be studying full time, and those are going to be the days I will be studying half time. So I'm working also half the time, I would say part time, and the rest of the time is actually studying. So I said, okay, every single day or every single week, if I'm going to work for 3 days and then I have 4 more days, right? One day I can spend with family, do all the chores at home or at the house, and then I'll have 3 more days that I wanted to go full time to the library and do my studying. And also in the evening, I have a proper, I would say maybe like 3 to 4 hours, or maybe early in the morning, I can also get another 2 or 3 hours. So even the days that I'm working, I can still get up to 6 hours of study time, right? So this kind of, I would say, a detailed schedule really helps. Maybe at some point, people would say that it's hard to make a schedule and then stick to it. That's so true, but it's actually true in the beginning, right? So I used to make schedules and then it was really hard for me to follow, but I said, no matter what, I'm going to make my schedule and actually follow up and then do it. It eventually actually paid off and it helped me, right? So your mindset and then your, I would say, your goal setting in your schedule. And then the third thing, I would say it's somehow relevant to the mindset, right? But it's a different, I would say, beast, right? It's when you fail a few times in life, you have to kind of make a mindset in a way that if I'm even going to be failing at this thing, it's actually going to help me to succeed, right? So it's hard to, I would say, look at your failures or disappointment in a way, thinking that they're going to be the stepping stones toward my success, right? So at times I would I was thinking I'm going to give up, right? So cloud computing is really not for me, or I'm not made for this thing. But what actually helped me was, okay, so no matter what, if I'm failing at it, I'm still going to give it one more try. I'm going to do a little bit more work. So at days I would wake up in the morning, I would say like, I am never going to the library again, but it was exactly that same day I will go to the library and it will actually be a very productive day and I will study a lot more, right? So maybe in life, doesn't matter if it's this exam or any other exam, what can happen is that you really push yourself at the days and at the time when you really, really think that you cannot do it. It's exactly at that, I would say, defining moment in your life that you think you cannot do it. If you push yourself a little bit more, you're actually able to do it, right? So that's the third thing that you wanted to push yourself. Even if you have failures in your life, even if you get disappointed, even if you don't feel like doing it, and then it's exactly those times, if you push yourself a little bit more harder, you can do it. So I would say enough for me talking in terms of building up your mindset. I would share in the second half a little bit the way I actually study it, right? So I'm going to quickly share my screen. Okay, so this is what I have, right? So this is my AWS, I would say, certification dashboard, right? So I actually passed my professional exam, my security specialty, and then my associate exam. So you can also see that I have one fail exam in here, which is the networking specialty. And then actually when I failed this exam, I was like really disappointed. And it took me some time for me to rebuild my confidence that I can actually do it. And that's when I meant, right? So for me, I was able to pass the solution architect associate exam and then the security specialty on the first try. And then I did networking specialty and actually failed it, right? So you can also see there's quite a gap between those exams, right? And then maybe there will be people with more work experience and then more time dealing with AWS that they can pass it maybe more sooner than me, but this is how it worked for me, right? So just I'm showing you this thing that there always failure along with some excuse me, some success that you can have in your life, right? So this was, and I'm just going to show my certification with you too, just because I'm proud of finally achieving, excuse me, the exam that was really, really hard for me. So this is my professional exam and I was finally able to get it done. Now, how I was able to get it, right? It's a big story. Passing an exam, showing your certification to other people is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much work behind it. And it's actually that hard work that's building our character, and it's building, I would say, our grit to make hard things happen in life, right? Or the impossible thing. For me, I was thinking like passing my professional exam was like something impossible, I cannot do it. But eventually it actually happened, right? So this is, so what I did after taking some courses, I would say, let me just go from the very beginning, what I did, right? So I took some courses from the Whizlab. Whizlab is a really, really amazing, I would say, teaching platform in terms of the cloud computing courses. They have it for AWS, for Azure, for cloud computing, I would say Google Cloud and AWS, right? But for me, I first started it with Solution Architect Associate exam. So I would say, or this course, they have everything explained in a very detailed, in a way that you will never forget it again, right? So they are also using different analogies. They have really good, I would say, hands-on labs as well. So that was one thing that I used, or one resource I used. You can see I took their different courses and I'm working on some of them. Some of them are still kind of not even I have started them. And then the second source I used was Udemy, right? And then in Udemy, there were two instructors, or I would say two sources that really, really helped me, right? So one was Brian Kroonenburg, right? So that was my first instructor in cloud computing. And then And it was the Solution Architect Associates, I would say, course that I took. So it was actually this one, right? And it really, really helped me in a sense that he's kind of making it a bit more fun and teaching it in a way they would actually be okay listening to long hours of video material, right? So I did this one, I did the Whizlab, and then I watched a YouTube video and someone recommended Stephane Maarek, and I actually started his courses and they're really, really amazing. Again, no one is sponsoring this video. I'm just showing say the different learning materials from these instructors that helped me. So it's the Whizlab. It's I would say in this Ryan Kroonenburg, this is actually from the A Cloud Guru. So the A Cloud Guru, the Whizlab, and then also Stephane Maarek. So those were the three learning material, learning resources that I used. So that was the first thing I did. Once I finished these video courses, right? The next thing that I did was actually summarizing everything that I learned, right? And by summarizing, I mean, I went to the AWS, let's say, Solution Architect Professional Exam Guide, and then I pulled out all those services that I listed them here. They were up to, let's say, 99 or 100 different kind of services, right? And then once I make a list, and then what I did the next thing was I put a small, let's say, let me just show it from the very beginning. So I put this as a service, or the notes can be like a short description, the use cases, and then the comparison with other services or common FAQs, right? So for example, for Athena, right, this is a short description. What are some common use cases? And then how is it different from other services? For example, how is it different from Redshift? How is it different from the EMR? And things like that. And this thing kind of continued for almost all of those services. For some, you can see that I have more FAQs in there. And then I would actually go to AWS documentation, and this everything is actually from there, right? And then almost all those sections, you can say, have 4 different sections up until like the service number 100, right? And then this thing helped me when I was revising for the exam, right? So I would come here, okay, if I don't remember what Amazon Aurora is doing, okay, this is the short description of it. Those are some use cases. And then if I wanted to know how is it different from DynamoDB or from RDS, then this is where I'm going to come and look into it, right? So this was another thing that helped me, but I would say the last thing that was more effective than anything else, it was actually when I started thinking that I wanted to teach it. Because when you start thinking you wanted to help another person learn a topic, that you don't want it to, I would say, deliver content that's actually not right. So then you are thinking, I wanted to make sure that I really know everything about this topic, so I'm able to help another person learn it in a better way too. And then that was one of the reasons I started, I would say, my YouTube channel. That I wanted to get some audience, teach it, and then while I'm teaching it, I will be able to help other people get some confusing topics, or I would say some hard topics in AWS in a way that's a bit more easier, right? So what I did was, okay, let me just put all those services in 4 different sections, and then kind of put in the relevant, let's say, components in there, right? So for example, in operation and communication, we have networking, content delivery, computing, containers. In security, we have like the security, compliance, identity, and some other stuff, right? Excuse me. And then I kind of dropped in all those relevant services in those areas, and then next, like, further divided them in 6 different sections. And then what I would do is I would pick up one section and then make exactly one slide summary of that thing, right? For example, if I go for the networking, so all these areas, for example, API gateway, direct connect, and those everything, transit gateway, how is it going to look like in one slide? So this is everything in one slide. I actually have a separate video. It's like almost 2 hours long video, and explaining from the very beginning how kind of we have like a region, and then within region we have VPC. Within VPC we have sub availability zones, we have subnets, and then we have EC2 instances, and then everything else, right? So this was for my networking, and then I wanted to learn something about the security and compliance, right? So for example, if I study all those services separately, alone, right? It's going to be hard for me to connect the dots and know how they work, right? For example, I would always confuse an inspector with a guard duty, or I would confuse inspector with maybe trusted advisor, right? But once I kind of put them in different areas, for example, we have entry, for example, if it's anything that you wanted to for example, if it's a building and you wanted to make sure that it's a really secure one, so the first thing is like you wanted to, on the entry point, you wanted to do really good authentication and authorization. Kind of I use the similar analogy in here. Once the authentication authorization is done, like how the detection and continuous monitoring is going to work, and then the prevention, and then the protection. And then what I did was all the relevant services in that area, I would put them here, and then it will make it much easier for me to understand and then to kind of connect the dots and connect those relevant services together, right? And then for the next part, I would say then all those services and then kind of the flow of those different services working together. For example, authentication with SAML, the Active Directory services with Cognito, IAM, and that entire process was just in a quarter of a slide in how it works, right? And then, for example, in detection, I had those other services, and then in here for the protection, mainly is encryption and kind of encryption with a KMS or key management service. For example, when I was learning the two topics, they were really, really confusing and hard for me, whereas KMS and then also authentication with SAML, Cognito, and Web Federation. But once I kind of made this quarter of a slide, I never ever forgot about how the steps actually work out, right? So what I am going to be doing is making a separate video on the security. So all AWS security in one slide or 4 quadrants, right? So, and then this is a good summary. So before exams, it's on the exam morning, but usually I wouldn't study on the morning of the exam, but just because if I wanted to give it maybe like a 1-minute glance, this is what I'm going to be looking at, right? So yeah, so this was for the security and this was for the management and governance. Again, everything in one slide and how they work together. And then this is for the compute and container services. And then another thing was the Elastic Container Service was a really confusing service for me as well. I couldn't get it. They kind of draw, I would say, a comparison between HelloFresh service and also HelloFresh is actually a food delivery or meal delivery service. Here in Canada, so I said, how about if this is kind of something that I know, HelloFresh, and then ECS is something that I don't know. And now we wanted to compare the different services that they kind of provide, but in a different category for sure. Because if I see, for example, a task is actually equal to a meal, right? For example, a task definition is actually equal to a meal recipe, right? And then a container image is actually just something, if we go into the description of that, I would say description of the meal is actually an image in a sense is actually like how, okay, let me just not go into that one for the moment because this video is going to get really, really long, but I will have a separate video on this one just to explain it. But this is how I used analogies to help me to understand different topics, right? And then this is for analytic services. Again, I have some flows in here, and then I also have some short description for each service, how they work together. So yeah, so this is, I would say, how I try to learn for or study for my professional exam or AWS Solution Architect professional exam. I hope it helped you in some ways. If you have any questions, if you wanted to reach out, maybe talk about it, how I study it or things like that, or just wanted to chat about anything, I will be more than happy to do that. And then also I would love to hear how you are trying for the different exams and how you're trying to pass them. So yes, I hope it helped. Again, it's your mindset. You really have to have a proper schedule and goal setting, I would say, attitude. And the third thing is you need to have a grit. You really need to be okay with failure. So you need to be okay with hard stuff and then still get doing it, right? So that's it for now. I really hope and I wish you guys all the best. And I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. So that's it for now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.